Hey guys, back again. So today, I wanted to talk about in the Christian community that talks about conspiracy theories. I've been in that arena. I mean, listening to those folks for years, okay, and also the world and everything that they keep up with, I've been keeping up with. But the thing that kills me is you'll have certain types of people, for instance, that they like Steve Quayle, for instance. He'll talk about giants and everything, right? And Genesis 6 giants, and he may talk about some other weird conspiracy stuff that is like really would be typically hard to handle, right? And then when it comes to like flat Earth, nothing. I mean, doesn't even talk about it. Okay, and this is what I'm getting at when I say that the whole world is in the system. Anybody like really famous, even like I say like the top, I don't know, at least 5 to 10 tiers of people that are famous typically are in the Babylonian system, the fallen system. And even the people like that are stage Christians, stage pastors on TV, those would be in the system because that's the top tier, right? That would be the top tier preacher. And then you would have the second tier preacher, which would be, I don't know, it's like whatever's below them. But, the top main stages are going to be in the system. And when it comes to people like, the conspiracies, the same thing. The top conspiracy leaders are probably in the system. It's just, that's how the world works. And we always think that those are like God's most high sought after prophets, really, right? But then we don't tend to realize and recognize that, Christ didn't have like a whole lot of like limelight shined on him. He got his fame came from him, healing people, in the streets and people talking about him because they couldn't keep their mouths shut. I mean, that's how good he was. And, for the words that he spoke and the things that he did, he's God, God's son. And so that's my point. My point is if you're into conspiracy theories or whatever, and you know how to click in, and you're a Christian and you've been in it for years and you know how to click in the biblical background, biblical narrative of it, then you're going to look into each and every one of them. And knowing that most of them are true, then you're going to be like fervently in on that to be highly, sought into it. You're going to seek into it because in the beginning of a conspiracy, when it comes out, it's like it doesn't have all the answers, but people know how to, there's some smart people online that know how to dissect these things and bring a lot of relativity out of it. And so what the thing that is a red flag to me is when you see like Steve Quayle talk about giants, he'll talk about transhumanism and all this stuff that they're doing these days that's bad, right? But then when you talk about like, and they shun like the Mandela effect, wanting to give it a chance, or they'll shun like the flat earth, wanting to give it a chance, or Gary Wayne, or who else? There's just a lot of people that okay, here's one, Zen Garcia. They won't even talk about, like, these guys are really into these conspiracies, man, like the seed of the serpent. They're into the giants, the Genesis giants and all this stuff. But then you get into like the mud flood, and Zen, they loved him, and Rob Skiba, they love flat earth, but they won't even look into like for instance, they won't even look into the mud flood. That he had like one guy on his show one time, and the guy got it all wrong. I mean, he said basically like the Genesis 6 giants that were left over were the ones that built the structures from the mud flood, and they got chased off by the Christians finally. I mean, it's like ridiculous. I think it was the hijacker guy. And when I brought it up on other people's shows, just in the comments, that they're plants. They have to be plants. I mean, there's no other way of looking at it. I mean, there's a lot of plants like that. Even in the world, they'll use plants, like Alex Jones. He was a plant. I mean, Alex Jones has got like all kind of craziness behind him that's related to the federal government. But anyway, yeah, so, because this is how it works, y'all. It works like this. If you're into conspiracies and you know that they're proven facts, because there's enough in there. So to make a conspiracy theory a fact is basically like you get scientific evidence that's impossible for it to scientifically be true. You know? Like if something they say melted, couldn't have melted with the fuel they said was on it to melt it. It doesn't get hot enough. And I mean, there's like 1,000 things wrong with a lot of these conspiracies that know that there's, so that you know, I mean, they're spiritual orchestration. And when you talk about the controllers of the world system, they are in a hive mind. They are linked up together. And that's why nobody gets caught. And then people get caught, there's a reason why. And when people say, well, how could all these people be in on it? Like the news and all these media and all these witnesses, they're all plants, y'all. But that's how powerful this fallen system is, as far as like the deception runs deep, and it is all connected to one authority, the enemy. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense that you don't get a peep out of like Gary Wayne or Zen Garcia about, they'll talk about all these oddball things, and then they'll say, well, they just don't know any better. Man, if you were like that, you would be asking a million questions. And then people say, well, it's because they have so much invested in, you know, the other system, like for instance, the globe system, geocentric model. So you're just going to keep lying to the people because you have a lot invested in your theological talk about it being based on a global system? I mean, how is that right? You know, that doesn't even make sense. If you would be truly in on this to like find out like what the hell, man, you know, like what's going on, like you wouldn't be able to help it. It's just something that you're into. It's interesting theological hobby to some degree. It should, but they refuse to. Like some of them will refuse to talk about flat Earth at all, but they're into all the other conspiracies. And then some of them will refuse to even talk about the mud flood, but they love talking about every crazy thing out there. And that's what I believe God has, you know, he makes them tell the truth, you know, like a lot of times it'll come out of some crazy person, you know, like the guy who said that the news was fake. I mean, yeah, he was telling you the truth, but he seems crazy, you know. And like Alex Jones, he seems crazy. Or, you know, Jesse Ventura. These are crazy people, like when you look at them, but they're still telling the truth. See, they have to tell the truth a few times God makes them. It seems like it has to be that way. And so they tell the truth, but they tell it out of a crazy person, so nobody will believe it, with them yelling and screaming, or as a mockery, like as a joke, because this stuff is so far out from the norm, this information, that when you do hear it, it is a joke, unless you're really investigating it and seeing, you got to wrap your head around it. And so to me, it's like, well, God makes them tell the truth by not telling, or not even saying a peep about it, would be the way that he's outing the plants, if you're keen to it. The people that are planted, the fakes, you know. So those are the guys making a lot of money off, you know, their books and stuff that are built into the system, you know, on the online people, you know, the ones, the controllers of the online TV pastors, basically, you know. It would be like the people like the Steve Quayles and them. That's my opinion of it. Because there should be no reason that you wouldn't have a discussion board. Like Steve Quayle would have a discussion board. I mean, this would be something like he wouldn't be able to put it down. I mean, come on. Or Zen Garcia, or the other guy that passed away, Rob Skiba. I mean, they don't even talk about, like, mud flood. They don't even bring it up. He had, like, the hijacker guy on there one time, like, for an hour, and that guy was saying, now he's changed his story, but he said some craziness about how the Christians, or the Genesis 6 giants leftover, were the ones that built all this stuff, and they got pushed out of each territory over time. And then that was the only thing Zen Garcia... So it's basically Zen Garcia had another guy on his show who basically converted mud flood into such a backwards way that it was just stupid. And now he's on, Understanding Conspiracy, and he's doing, like, talks on there like he knows what he's talking about, when there's been so many other people out there before these guys that like Understanding Conspiracy has brought some things to the table now, and some of those other guys, but whenever you bring up that but they're still in cahoots with these other people, and then when you want to mention that they got to be plants, because even that Toad House guy said it, and he had him on his show. I mean, it's okay to have your differences, but they're plants, man. They are plants from the enemy. To talk about one subject that is a conspiracy related topic of the biblical narrative, but not any others, so that you don't click in all of them together. And a lot of times people follow people instead of the word, and you can't do that. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that at you because it's kind of something been kind of bothering me a little bit, because it's kind of annoying, and it shouldn't be like that. If you're going to be, doing the Lord's work, you're going to be talking about all those topics. And if you're not going to be talking about all those topics, and you think that that person should be, like Gary Wayne doesn't talk about anything about flat earth. So you're in all this stuff, about, like, all the giants and what's under the ground and all this archaeology and stuff. You don't even care about what the earth looks like. Well, it's no big deal. No big deal. When you're talking about stargates and stuff, or Timothy Albrino, there's another one. They don't even touch flat earth. Like, you can't even talk about, like, what's your rebuttal then, They don't even have a rebuttal. A guy like that, with a mouth like that, with mouths like those guys have, they would have rebuttals. And that's my opinion. That's just my opinion of it. And I believe it to be true. I don't think there's going to be anybody that's going to convince me otherwise. Tell me in the comments what you think, y'all. Peace. I'm out.